Ladies and gentlemen, it is happening. The airports are collapsing. The lines are endless. Planes are grounded. Families stranded. And TSA agents, they have had enough. They're walking off the job after 28 days without a single paycheck. Now, ask yourself this. How did America, the most powerful, wealthiest nation on earth, even get here? Well, the answer, Democrat destruction. That's right, folks. Democrats in Congress refused to fund the government, triggering yet another shutdown. And this time, it's not some political chess match in D.C. It is the lifeblood of America's infrastructure under siege. Meanwhile, President Donald J. Trump, yes, your commander-in-chief, is firing back, exposing every ounce of the hypocrisy. While Democrats are on vacation, TSA officers are selling their blood to buy groceries. While liberal pundits are tweeting about morale being fine, air traffic controllers are missing entire paychecks, and they're warning that America's skies are one bad day away from disaster. I'm a little concerned about that. Is anybody a little bit concerned about getting on an airplane right now, or even being stuck in an airport with endless TSA lines? Drop a yes if you're concerned about that a little bit. And anyway, yet the media remains silent. Look, CNN, they're calling it temporary inconvenience. Drop a yes or no. Is it temporarily inconvenient if you're standing in a TSA line for 4 hours? Drop a no way if you think that's a little too long to wait in line. MSNBC says morale is strong, but the truth, folks, the truth is chaos. This isn't a slowdown. This is a shutdown of America itself. I mean, think about how many people only have 45 minutes to catch their connecting flight. They're going to miss their flight. The whole trip is ruined. So tonight, we're cutting through the noise. You're going to hear exactly what they don't want you to know, from the TSA revolt to President Trump's explosive message at the airports to the union defection that just shocked Washington, D.C., and the economic aftershocks that could very well cripple the nation if this madness doesn't end fast. Because while the Democrats are out here pointing fingers left and right, Trump is pointing to results. He's calling them out by name, and he's demanding accountability. And the country, it's rallying behind him. So buckle up, folks, because this isn't just another headline. This is the breaking point right here today. The question isn't whether America can survive this collapse. It's whether Democrats can survive the truth that's about to come out. Hit the like button, subscribe. Okay, you could pretty much feel it the moment you walked into the terminal. America had stopped moving. Security lines stretched for miles. Families slept on luggage. Arrival boards flashed canceled in every direction. TSA checkpoints half-manned, some completely empty and shut down because after 28 days without pay, agents finally said enough. I mean, it wasn't a slowdown. It was a full-scale standstill. Behind the scenes, tower radios crackled with tension. Flights circled endlessly, waiting for clearance that never came. Airports in Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Miami International Airport, all reporting critical staffing gaps. Now, here's the truth that no one on CNN dared to say. This wasn't caused by a storm or some system glitch or anything like that, or some massive airplane crash or even a cyber attack. This was Democrat obstruction, pure and simple. Weeks of failed votes, endless negotiations, political posturing, and then when the funding clock ran out, the paycheck stopped. So America's airports paid the price, because when you play politics with the federal workforce, you don't just freeze pay, you freeze the entire country. And so now the question every traveler is asking right now is simple. How long before the United States of America is completely grounded? So within hours of the first walkouts, President Donald J. Trump addressed the nation from the White House, and he didn't mince words when he did. He said, Democrats chose political games over paychecks. He called their shutdown an act of political hostage-taking, and millions of Americans watching at home agreed. And so while Democrat leaders were photographed in Cabo, President Trump boarded Air Force One for a surprise visit to Reagan National. He met with exhausted TSA agents face-to-face, shaking hands with men and women who had not seen a paycheck in nearly a month. How many people could even survive a whole month without a paycheck? Comment 1 down below if you think you could survive a whole month without a paycheck. Comment 2 if you think you could survive 2 months. Comment 3 if you think you could survive 3 months without a paycheck. Now, they're being told, hang in there by President Trump. He told them help is coming. Well, I sure hope that President Trump comes through on this one, because if we contrast that with the silence from Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, there's no statements, there's no empathy, there's no urgency, just political theater from there. And that's what really set the tone for what came next. President Trump declaring that federal employees would receive full back pay and vowing to end this Democrat disaster once and for all. So it really looks like all of the TSA agents are fully depending on President Trump to come through for them, because clearly the Democrats don't care about their paychecks. And it wasn't just a speech. This is leadership in motion. A sitting president sitting in the middle of America's airport crisis saying what everyone else was afraid to say. The blame lies squarely with the Democrats. Now, some Medicare plans look perfect on paper. They really do. But hidden in the fine print, font size 2, are limits and fees that are waiting to spring up and bite you in the you-know-what. And this is why I partner with Chapter, because they already know every Medicare loophole and they help you to avoid the traps before they catch you. Now, one of our viewers, she said, I almost signed up for a plan. I was about this close that looked great. The plan looked great and everything until Chapter pointed out what it really meant. So let me ask, do you want to fall for the trap? Do you really want to fall for the banana in the tailpipe, or do you want to join the crowd already stepping around it? Now, most people are already dialing the phone number right there at the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. The phone number again is 909-563-8279. Oh, and speaking of real experiences, listen to this one. So this one came from Steph for the Lord 64. Ron, my husband and I love watching your YouTube channel. He says, after dinner, I want to see what Ronnie's saying. Now, we both appreciate your hard work and news, and thanks again for referring Chapter. I'm excited to see all of my savings in 2026. Guys, this is what this partnership is all about, helping real families keep more of what they earned. So by the 4th week of the shutdown, the breaking point finally came. TSA agents across the country stopped showing up for work. Some called out sick, others just simply said, look, we're done. You can't keep America safe on $0 and promise. One veteran officer in Memphis told reporters, it's like slavery almost. They make us work, they threaten us, but nobody's getting paid out here. Another in Baltimore sold her blood to feed her grandchildren. Now think about that, guys. A federal employee, 23 years on the job, selling blood because Washington refused to do its job. I mean, this is just crazy. Drop a plasma down below if you know anyone who's ever sold blood for money. And so while the media tried to frame it as like a minor inconvenience, airport security lines ballooned to 3 hours, sometimes 4-hour waits. Passengers missed flights, morale completely collapsed. These are men and women sworn to protect travelers, now forced to protect their own families from eviction notices and empty refrigerators. Now, President Trump, he calls it what it is, a betrayal by the Democrats. He said, no American worker should ever be forced to labor without pay, especially those who are guarding our nation's skies. That message right there lit up every terminal in America. The revolt had begun. So if the TSA lines were chaos, the air traffic towers were complete catastrophe. I mean, controllers went weeks without paychecks, juggling 10-hour shifts, 6-day work weeks, and sleepless nights. Then came the unthinkable. A regional tower temporarily unmanned when every controller on duty called out sick. Now, for the first time in U.S. history, commercial planes circled the sky with no one guiding them from the ground. Rather scary if you think about it. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned that real consequences were coming if Democrats kept blocking the funding bill. And he was right. Flight delays rippled from coast to coast. Pilots reported missed handoffs. Exhausted controllers admitted that they were distracted. And the FAA quietly confirmed increasing operational strain. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm ready to get on a plane anytime soon. It doesn't seem safe right now. This wasn't theory anymore. This was danger, real, measurable, and rising by the hour. And yet the Democrats shrugged, insisting that morale is strong. Tell that to the father who hasn't seen his kids in weeks. Or how about the mother that's pulling double shifts on an empty stomach? President Trump hammered the point home. Safety comes before politics. Pay the controllers, fund the government, and the games. But Washington just kept on playing chicken with America's lives on the line. And so when Democrats finally broke their silence, their message was insulting. They claimed morale among TSA and FAA workers was strong. Strong? Tell that to the agents that are standing in food bank lines. Tell that to the families wondering which bill to skip this month. The spokesperson for the TSA actually went on national television and said, there's no degradation in security. Even as airports reported 4-hour waits and near fistfights at the checkpoints, the arrogance was staggering. This is when President Trump took the gloves off. The administration released a video played inside U.S. airports calling out Democrats by name for causing a shutdown. The message was clear. This is what happens when Democrats put policy over people. Travelers applauded, conservatives cheered, liberal pundits called it propaganda, but the truth hit where it hurt. The Democrat narrative collapsed in real time because Americans, they saw the difference between talk and leadership. President Trump wasn't hiding behind the talking points. He was standing shoulder to shoulder with the very workers Washington had abandoned. And for millions of frustrated travelers, that video was more than a statement. This was vindication. And behind every canceled flight, there was a face, there's a family, there's a story behind this. So a single mother who works at TSA in Atlanta now choosing between rent and groceries. A veteran air traffic controller in Phoenix who drained his savings to buy insulin for his daughter. And yes, of course, that union president in Baltimore. 23 years of service selling her blood to pay bills. This is dropping insanity if this is insane to you guys. This is not a talking point. This is clearly desperation. And as if that wasn't bad enough, SNAP benefits, food assistance, all of that was frozen for thousands of the same workers. And let's not forget, there's a lot of kids that are getting impacted by this, right? They showed up to apply for help only to be told that they still had an income because technically they hadn't been fired. Now imagine hearing that while your bank account reads zero or some negative number, insufficient funds. President Trump addressed it directly. No family should suffer because politicians refuse to do their jobs. He vowed full back pay and directed emergency relief options through private partnerships and state agencies. Meanwhile, Democrat leadership remained silent, more concerned with the optics than the outcomes. Now, these families, they weren't asking for sympathy, they were asking for survival. And President Trump, he gave them something Washington never does, a plan and a promise to act. Then came the shockwave that no one saw coming. For decades, Washington insiders assumed every major union was going to always kind of line up behind the Democrats. But not this time. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association, a traditionally left-leaning union, broke ranks and threw its support behind a Republican-backed clean funding bill. That move right there sent shockwaves through D.C. For the first time in years, union leadership stood shoulder to shoulder with President Trump instead of Democrat lawmakers. Now, a lot of people are asking, well, why did that happen? Well, it's because the controllers had seen enough. They were working without pay, with shrinking crews, and growing danger in the towers. Now, the union's public statement was blunt. We support any immediate funding resolution that restores pay and protects safety. Translation, the Democrats failed us. Help us out, please. Now, Trump praised them for their courage, saying, when even the unions are standing up for what's right, you already know America's waking up. And that moment right there, guys, that broadcast across conservative media, it became the turning point. It wasn't just Republicans versus Democrats anymore. This was the working class versus the political class. And the Democrats, well, they were on the wrong side of both. Now, most people, they just wait until January to start making smart financial moves, right? Call it New Year's resolutions and whatnot. But the smart ones, they act before the year ends, because by then, the headlines will already be screaming about the next crisis. This is why I partner with Noble Gold Investments. They help people just like you get ahead of what's coming. So Noble Gold makes it super simple to add real gold and silver to your IRA or your 401k, giving you something that the Fed can't print and politicians can't destroy. And so when people see how simple this is, they end up saying, well, that makes sense. And this is exactly why people are calling the phone number at the bottom of your screen right there, or they're visiting RonYatesGold.com to get their free wealth protection kit right now. That phone number again is 877-646-5347, because smart money moves aren't made in January. They're made before the calendar flips. But the pain did not stop at the airport gates. When TSA lines freeze and flights are canceled, the ripple hits everyone. Airlines, hotels, restaurants, even Uber drivers waiting at the terminals. Economists estimate billions in lost revenue just in the first weeks of the shutdown. President Trump did not mince words. He said every hour Democrats delay costs American workers millions. And he's right about that. Look, airport vendors shuttered, rental car companies cut hours, entire airline routes were suspended because the staffing chaos made schedules impossible to maintain. Meanwhile, Democrats just kept on arguing about budget priorities and procedural fairness. Fairness? What fairness, right? Tell that to the baggage handler laid off in Denver. Tell that to the waitress near JFK Airport whose tips disappeared overnight. The message became crystal clear. This wasn't just a federal problem. This was a national emergency. And President Trump drove it home in every press briefing. No pay, no planes, no passengers, no excuses. This is the kind of line that really sticks because it's the kind of truth that really hurts. And if Democrats thought Americans wouldn't notice the economic fallout, well, they were dead wrong. Dead wrong. And so, as the chaos deepened, one name kept resurfacing: Joe Biden. The man who left office in disgrace just a year earlier still casts a shadow over the Democratic Party. And according to President Trump, this entire shutdown is the final chapter of Biden's broken government. Democrats inherited his failed mindset: bureaucracy before backbone. So even now, President Trump's opponents recycle Biden's talking points: negotiate later, blame the GOP, trust the process. But Americans aren't buying this anymore. Not after watching federal employees go 4 weeks without pay, not after watching air traffic controllers warn of a catastrophe. The mainstream media tried to spin it as shared responsibility. But President Trump cut through the noise real fast. I reopened America once before, I'll do it again. If the Democrats would just get out of the way. And that's when it hit people across the country. The reason this shutdown hurts so much is because they've lived through this movie before. We already saw Biden's incompetence. We saw Democrat weakness. And now we're seeing what happens when those same politicians try to bring that dysfunction right on back. It isn't shared failure, it's Democrat failure. And so while the Democrats are arguing, President Trump acts. Late last night, the White House announced the Fix It Now initiative. This is a multi-state emergency response to stabilize air traffic and pay federal employees immediately. Trump authorized the National Guard to assist with airport security, ordered the Treasury to fast-track back pay, and demanded Congress pass a clean funding bill by Monday. His words were fiery, unmistakable. We will not let Democrat dysfunction ground this country. And that single sentence right there ignited hope in a nation running on fumes. So across America, grounded passengers cheered as the news broke that President Trump's plan was already restoring operations in key airports. Union leadership thanked him publicly, something unheard of a year ago. Even airline CEOs admitted the president's leadership kept this from becoming a full-blown aviation crisis. Trump closed his press briefing with a promise: we'll pay every worker, fix every system, and make sure this never happens again. But as America begins to recover, one question lingers in every terminal, every household, every heart. Will the Democrats back down before the next flight is canceled? Or will they keep trying to ground America for good? Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below.